community by sharing that knowledge from Sagacious. Back to you, Ankita.
Thank you, panelists. So now, without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Hana Ondrakova to keynote focused on, is India a potential market for EU green technologies? Hana, over to you, please.
Thank you, Ankita. And as we said earlier, welcome to all of you. I'm very excited about this webinar because, of course, climate change and pollution and environmental issues are all around us, and India is no exceptions to that. So before we proceed to answering the question whether India is a correct market for the European companies, I would like to set a context of this webinar and maybe a little bit of our presentations. So what some of you already know, India is at the moment the 4th largest CO2 emitter in the world. And the most CO2 emission in the context of India from the energy sector. And the reason for that, as probably some of you might know, is because of the Indians' dependence on the coal. Over the years, Indian government has been trying to, implement the use of renewable resources, and hence we have seen a bit of fall in the CO2 emission from the energy sector, which is first time from 1973. So this is obviously very positive news. Surprisingly, for maybe some of you, again, might be that the other contributors to the CO2 emission in India is actually agriculture. This is, for instance, rice cultivation and cattle stock. So these three are actually the major CO2 emitters in the context of India. If we compare India to Europe, because we all think, okay, Europe is the Western world, they might be doing much better than us and so on, but this is actually not true. Europe at the moment, or the EU at the moment, with its 27 member states, is the 3rd largest emitter of the CO2. Of course, and again, this has contributed to the power sector, the demand for the energy, and as in the case of India, with the use of renewable resources, that the drop in the CO2 from the energy sector has been there. We all know that in 2019, the European Union has decided or has pledged that EU will become carbon neutral by 2050. So this is, of course, a very ambitious goal, and the EU has taken various initiatives how to support it and how to make it happen. So what is the vision of India when we talk about the CO2 emission, when we talk about the environmental issues? So what is the vision of the government of India, how to address it, how to approach it? Chose some of these initiatives because, of course, India is a huge country. We have a number of different environmental issues. So if I had to name all of them, we are here till tomorrow. So of course, since the energy sector is one of the biggest contributors towards the CO2 emission, one of the goals is actually to reduce emission intensity 5% 2005 level by 2030, which is in 10 years. This was itself under the Paris Agreement has made serious attempts to use the renewable sources. And they pledged to achieve 175 gigawatts from renewable energy capacity by 2022. That's pretty much around the corner. And of course, there would be different sections of renewables through which we would get this amount of energy. Some it's from the solar, from the wind, of course, biopower, and from the small hydropower. So India really tried to diversify its, the way how they try to get this energy. Also, there is a move towards what I would call cleaner energy. So there was a pledge to increase the use of natural gas by 2030. So by 15%, we are at 6% at the moment. Another point which I would like to mention, of course, is the transport. I'm sure that it's no surprise to all of you that India has, and particularly cities in India, really struggle with the air pollution. One of the way how to tackle air pollution is the use of electrical vehicle. The government of India has had numerous schemes And recently there was a scheme of 10 crore. I'm not of Indian rupees. I'm not really sure what is the calculation to euros or USDs, and to support this initiative. And they would like to see the government of India that by 2030, around 30% of vehicles on Indian roads would be electrical vehicles. Of course, in order to make it happen, you have to build up infrastructure, charging station, and whatnot. So this is again the way where India see moving forward. And the last point, which I would like to mention of the vision, and that again goes hand in hand with agriculture being such an important aspect in India, as a matter of fact. I mean, agriculture in India contributes to 18% of GDP and employs around 50% of the workforce. So now with the new use of technology being IoT, being big data, drones, robots, I don't know, whatnot, there is a big push towards precise agriculture. That precise agriculture in India at the moment is growing by 10%. It's valued at 85 million USD. And that itself, if implemented properly, will not only increase the crop yield in India, will decrease the pollution, from, let's say, stubble burning as such, or from, maybe too many fertilizers and so on, will decrease the use of energy, consumption. Let's say there was the initiative of installing solar-driven water pumps, etc. So there is definitely a big sector in agriculture which European companies, which are in pumps, solar, and so on, could actually focus. So this is just the, and what are the challenges? I named this slide "Challenges Turn into Opportunities" because again, these are the demands which will have to be addressed in India in years to come. And of course, if you're a company with this particular technology or in this particular technology domain, there would be definitely space for you in this market. So as I mentioned, energy is obviously a big deal in India, and it is predicted that by 2040, India's energy demand will double. I mean, I don't have the exact number how much the energy consumption is right now, but India will have to find ways how to generate that much of power. And of course, whether they will rely on renewables, to some extent, assume that renewable resources would not be sufficient to cover such a big energy demand, whether on nuclear power, coal, whatever it is, they will have to address this particular issue. Other ways for to address waste to energy key area. So as you can imagine, a country like India having its massive population, we generate a lot of waste. As of now, only 2% of that waste is utilized to be converted into energy. So there is a potential around 1,070 megawatts from the urban waste and 1,300 megawatts from the industrial waste, which India, I mean the local municipalities can use to generate power. Another resource which is very valuable all over the world and which we definitely hear about a lot, and India is no exception to that, is water and wastewater and wastewater management and systems. So very recently, just to see the amount of scope, which you need in such a big country. So the investment was 270 billion USD to meet the target of drinking water, or at least supply of water to all homes by 2024. I mean, Joel might describe later on different schemes which are happening in India under the wastewater system. There are initiatives for cleaning the Ganga, cleaning the Indian rivers, etc. So there is definitely a lot of going on in this space to address the issues when it comes to water management. Other point, which is urban design and smart cities. So at the moment, as you might know, I think the exact number was 1.36 billion people. So India has population 1.36 billion people, out of which 65% is under the age of 35, which means in next 20 years, or maybe not even that, you will have a new generation of that amount. So there will be growth of Indian population naturally. So the prediction is that just by next 10 years, 68 Indian cities will have population over a million, whereas 6 mega cities will have population of 10 million plus. I mean, Delhi is a prime example. I think Delhi is now 20 million people. So of course, in order to address these challenges in terms of living, in terms of, again, management of waste, management of water, designs of the, smart architecture, green architecture, you name it. All these technologies, all these concepts will be definitely requested for in this country. And last and least is green buildings. This pretty much goes in line with what I was saying. With the growth of the population, you need to accommodate people. And as per the reports, there will be 41 billion square meters built by 2030. But 70% of those buildings have not been built yet. So the growth of the population, along with the the growth of the how much I don't say class, but how much money people are earning and how much they can afford, of course everything will go hand in hand. So yes, there are challenges which India as a country will experience, but there are opportunities from the European companies or from companies all over the world, as a matter of fact, to come and help them to address the challenges, help them to enter this market in this regard. So when I come back to how, because obviously we are very European-driven organization and we help European companies in particular, so we are very happy to see that there is a very strong collaboration between India and Europe for a number of years. As a matter of fact, EU and India have been in strategic partnership since 2004. India, or the EU, has been, assisting India or helping India, you can say, on various issues. They had a joint statement issued in 2017 on clean energy and climate change, and they're very committed to implement this the agenda for sustainable development and decrease of greenhouse emissions. Of course, India, also in coordination with the EU-funded resource initiative, published a draft national resource efficiency policy. I would like to also give kudos to Indian government, because over the years there have been a number of policies which came to place to address all these issues we actually talk about. I mean, I think in 2018 it was draft energy policy. There have been policy on the wind. I don't know, energy on the solar power, and so on and so on. The list is endless. So yeah, government of India does realize the issues they have to tackle, and they are trying to put framework to do that. The major areas of cooperation are again to address the issues which I talked about earlier. So there would be, of course, environment, energy, climate, ICT, and urbanization. And I would like, obviously, sustainability, mobility, transport, and so on. But I would also like to focus on research and innovation. We in IPR, obviously, research, innovation, and the intellectual property rights kind of go hand in hand, because without the development and research, you don't have new innovation which you can protect. And my other colleagues, Faiz and Anupam, they will talk about it. They talk about the IPR, and although I myself don't cover this particular topic in the presentation, because they happening here, and there will be for the collaboration between the Indian and the European universities and R&D institutions, and increasing strengthening the partnership between both parties. So if I conclude, I don't know how long I have been speaking for, whether India is a market for EU companies, with my short presentation, the answer is definitely yes. Although the whole world these days struggles with the COVID, and COVID is like everyday news, and of course in India we have these huge numbers coming up every day. But despite that, and there might be some dips in the GDP, and I don't know what not. But at the end of the day, I mean, the life has to go on, and India is still or will be one of the fastest growing economies Actually, prior COVID, we had webinars where we predicted, or it was predicted, by 2030, India will be $5 trillion economy. Okay, might not happen now, but you know, if let's say it's a matter of another 2 to 3 years, who knows? But the truth is, it will eventually happen. Sooner or later, you can say. And as we discussed earlier, with the support of the government and the need, you know, for the green technology in the various sectors or various challenges which we talked earlier, India will be definitely a great market for the European companies. And as I said, you know, we can talk about the major core area can be the energy, electric vehicles. I would also myself be in favor of the, you know, green and smart agriculture, which is also very much kind of happening in Europe right now, to be as a core areas. So now you listen to my segment and you see what I have been saying, and then you can compare it to what is actually the filing trends and how many European companies are actually filing patents in India, which will be later covered by FACE. And you will see that there is a little bit of discrepancy there. So I would definitely urge companies, you know, who are in the, you know, all these are in all these businesses in these key areas, not only to look at India as a market, but also look at India of the country where you can actually have and protect your IPR. Again, reason for that, then Anupam will talk about it, you know, the changes which have happened over the years, the improvement of the IPR ecosystem. So the bad reputation India had over the years is definitely done away with. You know, this is something which is a matter of the past. Just very quickly, I don't want to go, way too much into it about EBTC, because we are an organization, as I said, which was initially set up as an EU project in 2004, funded by the European Commission, and we were always at the contributor towards bilateral cooperation between the EU and India. And this is just, again, very quickly, we transited into non-for-profit organization in 2016, and even since, we have been always demand-driven organization, helping with the EU, and we have a lot of EU mandates. We work with a lot of public projects. Again, this is something which you can approach us if you want some help. And under the initiative which this particular workshop is, or this webinar is held, is what we call is this Europe India IP Forum, which again is the purpose is to educate both European and Indian companies about the issues at the both ends. I mean, for Indian companies, it would be more about where do I get funding to go to Europe, and in India, in the European companies, when they come to India, what is the IPR ecosystem there so I can protect my innovation? So they would have different type of challenges when they are entering each, you know, different jurisdictions. But essentially, there's always support there. And we reach out to you, obviously, through this initiative, or through our partners like EEN, you know, FICCI, which is Indian Chamber of Commerce, Invest India. We work with various government organizations, and etc. So we don't always work on the public front. We also work with a lot of public organizations. So with that, I would pass word to my colleague, or back to Ankita, who will introduce our next guest. But please, when you are looking at the presentation of Anupam and FACE, bear in mind whatever I have been saying to make some sort of your practical conclusion about what's there, what's required, but what is actually happening on the ground. So thank you for your attention, and I hope you will enjoy the rest of the presentation, and we will be looking forward to hearing from you at some other occasion. Thank you. Ankita, over to you.
Thank you, Hannah, for setting up such a nice context, I must say, especially the challenges turned into opportunities. Because even the Ministry of Water has started, they have started this ambitious project of putting sensors, IoT-based sensors in all the taps in urban areas in India, pan-India. So these kind of schemes and initiatives actually bring a lot of opportunities, especially for European companies and Indian both sides. So now, moving forward, I would like to invite Joy to shed some light on opportunities in the green tech sector and support being offered by the EU. Joy, over to you, please.
Well, thank you, Ankita. And I think we are having this discussion and this webinar on a very important day while the president of the European Commission is speaking to the Europeans about the State of the Union, it has come out mentioning that as part of the EU Green Deal, trying to make the EU as a carbon neutral continent, they have increased it by 5%. So it's now 55% and not 50% as how it was planned in the EU Green Deal, which was launched earlier this year, or last year actually. So I think the businesses in the EU are also pushing for it, trying to make the EU a green continent. So I think it's a very important day to have this discussion. What I thought of also sharing with you in terms of the opportunities in the green tech sector in India, and what is the kind of support the EU is offering green tech companies or clean tech companies in terms of India. And before that, I thought I would set the context after Hannah has already very well set the context for this discussion in terms of innovation. In terms of innovation, India is faring better now. And in terms of most indices that you will see online as part of the Bloomberg Innovation Index, India is 54th. In terms of ranking, and I think it has got a long way to go, but I think also that the government of India, as well as the businesses and particularly the private sector, is now focusing on innovation in startups, particularly green tech startups and clean tech startups. So I think it will definitely up the rankings. In terms of global innovation, India is ranked 48th. It has climbed 5 spots ever since the last year, ever since the last index of 2019. So in 2020, as of now, it is ranked 48th. And as I mentioned before, it will see signs of positivity. In terms of the EU, we do happen to have a lot of innovative companies, as well as now with the Green Deal coming out, a lot of these startups and these companies in Europe are looking at green innovation and are looking at clean technology in a very, very big way. And with that, there is something called the Europe Innovation Scoreboard, which was launched earlier this year as well, which really ranks companies and countries based on where they stand in terms of the EU. And this is a report coming out of the European Commission. You will see that Scandinavia, as from this map, you will see that Scandinavian countries, the countries like Sweden and Denmark and Finland, are really doing extremely well in this particular sector. And, the other countries are not really far off. They have been focusing on the green tech sector because it is also coming in as a mandate from the EU. In terms of ranking, Sweden is, of course, ranked very closely with Denmark. If you look at the ranking in terms of the report, in terms of innovation. And of course, you have the other EU countries like Luxembourg and Germany also focusing and pushing their companies and their startups to look at green technologies. So this is a report that I would also like for you after this webinar to take a look at. It's available online. It will just give you insights as to what Europe has to offer India. Now let us focus on the green tech sector in India. Hannah did touch about the clean tech challenges and opportunities, but I want to talk to you more about what are the kind of technologies per se that India is looking out for in terms of green technologies. Of course, I've only put down energy, environment, and transport, but there's also agri-tech that is very important for India, even food processing. So if there are green technologies in these particular sectors, of course, that would be of interest to India. As Hannah mentioned, India has a very ambitious goal of renewables, to focus on renewables, because we've been a carbon focused economy for the longest time. But I think even the government as well as the businesses in India are now looking at these innovations and innovative technologies to reduce its carbon emissions. And of course, we also have signed up to the Paris Agreement. So we really need to do something about it. So things like solar, wind, offshore wind is a big sector now coming in India. There is, of course, the tender that everyone knows of in offshore wind of 1 gigawatts coming out by the government of India and the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So there is a lot of potential in these sectors and green technologies coming in from Europe. And I, having worked in this space for a long time, I can see that um, Europe is and does have very, very innovative technologies, especially in the clean technologies. And India looks towards Europe for its innovations. Yeah, it has opportunities of looking at other countries as well, but they've always contacted the EU in terms of renewables and clean technologies. And that's the reason why in the 2017 meeting with Prime Minister Modi and the EU Commission, there were these joint declarations that came out from a political and a government G2G basis. But even this year, when the virtual meeting of the EU-India summit took place, it was very clear that both the EU and India will jointly collaborate on clean tech and green tech. Small hydro projects. Yeah, this has been a very interesting area for India because we do have river bodies and we do have water bodies and lakes in India where we can really maximize on this technology. And having been with EBTC for a while now, we did see a lot of small hydro companies coming to India and showing interest in India for the longest time. Smart grids and super grids, every year India has the India Smart Grid Week, and we see a lot of EU businesses in this particular space coming to India and showcasing their technologies as well. Because as you know, India has is definitely trying to electrify most of its villages and cities. We're trying to be 100% electrified country, but at the same time, we have villages which cannot really get onto the national grid, and so smart grid does play a very important role. In terms of environment, yes, we happen to have most of the most polluted cities in India in terms of air quality. And that's the reason why it's also given India an opportunity to look at the EU for its clean technologies and clean air, because we have an agreement between the EU and India in terms of a project focusing on clean air and bringing in clean air technologies to India. Water and waste management already shared by Hannah. We are looking at very innovative water and waste management technologies, as well as in my next slide, I will talk to you about how the water technologies can enter India through the India-EU Water Partnership. Transport, India is looking at, of course, green and e-cars and vehicles. E-mobility is a very, very important area for India right now. And in terms of intelligent transport systems, whether it's signaling, whether it's sparking, India is really looking at it in a big way. For more real-time opportunities, I would suggest that you contact me later on after this presentation, where I can share with you the opportunity. This was just to give you a flavor as to what are the kind of technologies India is looking at in terms of green tech. Do not forget, India is a highly agricultural sector. Agriculture tops all the sectors in India. And so green tech in agri-tech would be very, very important for a country like India. Now, let me focus very quickly on the support being offered by the EU. I also manage the business support to the EU-India Policy Dialogues project, which is a direct outcome of the new EU strategy on India, which was adopted in 2018. So as Hannah mentioned, the strategic partnership started in 2004, but in 2018, it really got into focusing on sectors and different areas where, and there's a new strategy on India, which was developed by the EU. So the business support to the EU-India Policy Dialogues focuses on supporting EU businesses that are looking at coming to India to work on projects that are under the policy dialogues. And the policy dialogues between the EU and India focuses on the sectors of energy, environment, climate change, ICT, and urbanization. So these are the sectors that are directly focused under the policy dialogues between the EU and India. And what we try to do is bring about EU businesses that can actually be plugged into these projects under these sectors or under these policy dialogues, which you will see right below. We have the Clean Energy and Climate Partnership Project, which is focusing on renewables and renewable energy sector, which is focusing on rooftop solar, whether it is solar, whether it is wind. This particular project has got connections with the Indian government in this particular sector that work on an EU-India basis. So what we try to do is plug in the EU businesses in these particular sectors directly into these projects. So if you are a business and you are looking at coming to India in this particular sector, do contact us. We will be happy to make those connections for you directly with the projects with our partners at the Clean Energy and Climate Partnership Project. The India-EU Water Partnership Project, like I mentioned to you earlier, focuses on cleaning the Ganga River. India has 12 major rivers and several river inlets within the country, and most of them need to be cleaned. In fact, all of them need to be cleaned. And we are looking out for innovative solutions from the EU, because remember, the EU also has a lot of rivers which were dirty and they got cleaned. So I think we are looking out for those innovative solutions of cleaning the large rivers and lakes and river bodies in India through the India-EU Water Partnership. The India-EU ICT standardization project particularly focuses on supporting India in managing ICT in terms of its standards. As you know, India is an ICT hub. It's a global ICT hub. But in terms of exports and in terms of doing business globally, it does need to meet with international standards. And the EU is supporting India in managing its ICT standards. India-EU Urban Partnership is particularly focusing on smart cities. As you know, India was trying to create, or has tried to create, 100 smart cities, and this number of 100 is only growing. Ever since 2014, we have got a target of 100 smart cities. Most cities are trying to get smarter in terms of e-governance, in terms of security, in terms of e-mobility, and all of these particular sectors. But the India-EU Urban Partnership also focuses on supporting the Indian cities in terms of getting smarter with its own technologies, in terms of green technology. So there's of course a green tech angle to all of these sectors, or a clean tech angle. So if you are an EU company that is focusing on cities, whether it is smart parking, whether it's intelligent transport systems, do let us know. We'll be happy to connect you with this particular project. And finally, Resource Efficiency Initiative is an EU funded project which focuses on improving and supporting India in managing its own natural resources. As you know, India is a large country which also has very good natural resources, but in terms of management, it does need the support of the EU. And the EU is willingly supporting India in these projects. Now, remember, all of these projects are EU funded. And what we try to do is support these companies, not only of letting them understand what are the opportunities in India, but also plugging them directly into these projects. So when you come to India, you're not really looking out for a sale or or things like that. You're already working with projects, and that's how you're able to even recover on your investments in India if you are in the clean tech sector. So with that, I'll stop here, because I think, there's also a very important topic on patent filing by Faiz and Anupam. So I think I will stop here, but if in case you want to know more information on which are these projects and what are the technologies that India is looking at in terms of real-time projects, do contact me at fernandes@ebtc.eu, and I'll be very happy to make those introductions for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel, for such a nice, I must say, various opportunities digging in, right? So now let's have a look at filing trends for the EU businesses in India by Faiz. Faiz, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ankita. Just so greetings to everyone, and thanks for having me here. I'm really delighted to have this opportunity to present to you rather a snapshot of the work that we have been doing this year. Our work at Sagacious has aligned a little bit with the World Intellectual Property Office's theme of this year's World IP Day, which was Innovate for a Green Future. And at Sagacious, we undertook this initiative to conduct overall research around what kind of green technologies and what kind of green patents were being filed globally. And the results were quite striking. We identified that although the filings were quite sizable, still the quality of the filings that are being made by companies is still not to a high level, largely attributing to the fact that much of the recent innovations in green have been oriented towards specific areas, and largely they have been you can say recent in terms of their filings. Today, what I would like to do is to share with you a snapshot of the filings that have been happening between European companies and Indian companies, Indian Patent Office. Yeah. Okay. And also talk about what kind of green tech contribution these companies are actually making, and also some of the key opportunity areas. Probably also I'll try to tie it up with what Hannah and Joel have been speaking about in terms of opportunities in the Indian market. But I think you would be clearly able to see that there is a huge gap in terms of what the future demand is and what the current state of the IP filing is. Now, why is IP filing important for us? IP filing is important for us because that's an indicator of potential market entry of a company into a particular jurisdiction. The reason why you file IP in a particular country would be to protect the subsequent products that you're launching in that market, or trying to license that IP in that geography for products that are being manufactured by local companies. So the arrival of IP in a particular jurisdiction would indicate the arrival of solutions and technologies towards the problems that the local market is facing. The consumer markets are expecting. And how do we really? I mean, when we started this research process, the first thing that we wanted to figure out is what is green tech, because you saw the presentations before, and you saw that there are so many technologies involved, and everything finally has a green angle. So how, when you try to look at it from a data-driven perspective, how are you able to identify a single source of data? And fortunately, the European Patent Office has taken an initiative where they have created a classification scheme for identifying patents that contribute to climate change mitigation technologies. And this classification largely puts patents in 7 different you can say categories or industries, which basically relate to energy, greenhouse gas emissions, the capture of the technology which helps in capturing the GHG, the greenhouse gases, buildings, which largely forms correlate to the smart city development and the building real estate development that Hannah was also talking about. Industries, including agriculture. So a lot of technologies that are suitable for industries and for agriculture technology are included in this category. And also transportation and wastewater management. So those sectors have been identified, and technologies have been classified under climate change mitigation technologies by the European Patent Office, and they help us in identifying the patents that are that we can say contribute to a green future. So let me quickly jump into the numbers, and here is what you see as the patent filings from India. between the last, you can say 5 years from 2015 to 2019. You need to remember that patent filings take about 18 months to get published in the public domain. So the last 18 months data is always questionable. And so we are taking this information till 2019. You can see there might be some slight changes in 2019, but you still see it increasing. So that would be a trend that will continue, would still increase. What you see here is close to about 350,000 patents that are published in India since 2015. And out of which almost 22% are contributed by European, entities. European entities would mean largely filing into the European Patent Office or any of the country-specific patent offices wherever the first filing has been. And you see a spike in 2016, and also you see a rise since 2018 in the patent filings. And in 2016, India came up with the IPR policy. The Union Cabinet actually approved the policy, the IPR policy, and probably there was a lot of focus around that prior promotion, etc. And you saw that a lot of companies actually took that as an indication of Indian IP scenario changing, and we'll know more about it when Anupam speaks. But probably that's one reason why you see overall filings higher in 2016. We also saw global patent filing increase in that period, so that's also a contributing factor. And I think I can also relate to what Joel was saying that in 2018 the EU and India discussions actually started getting steam on ground. And post that, you also see an increase in the number of patents that have been filed in India. So when you look at the top countries within Europe and the filings there, you see that a lot of these are PCT applications filed at the European Patent Office. But you also see countries like Germany, France, Italy, and Sweden. Sweden being from the Nordics, like Joel was, talking about a lot of focus from the Nordic countries in innovation. So these are the countries that are filing, largely in India. But when you see at the numbers, you can see that those numbers are pretty low. 300, 700, 800, 1600, 3000. Because overall patent filing is still pretty low in India. So I think, again, Anupam will be talking about that and how the system is changing so that we are seeing more and more increased number of filings in India happening. But yeah, these are primarily the companies the countries that are filing currently in India. When we particularly look at individual companies, we still see large companies filing in India, like Philips, BASF, Siemens, Robert Bosch. They are the top, you can say, patent filing companies. But you also see, companies which probably don't have a lot of presence, smaller companies, not a lot of presence globally, still looking at India and filing patents here. I think this slide is probably a very interesting slide because it allows you to see the kind of technology that is being patented or IPRs being taken around the domains that are being filed in India. And these largely you will see also contain those industries which have the green angle. The biggest areas of application are electrical machinery and apparatus, which is one of the bigger industries in Europe. And a lot of filing in Europe happens around this area, and that translates into the filings that are happening in India as well. You also see a lot of it in organic fine chemistry. So that could, relate to, the waste and wastewater treatment technologies. And so on and so forth. Now, I think one question that arose, from the previous discussions that Hannah and Joel started was what are those green domains, which need support, but what are also those green domains where actually patents are being filed or companies are actually active. And this is, a top, you can say 10, 15 industries. One of the striking, you can see gaps in this particular slide is the absence of ICT technologies. We talked about India being an ICT hub and a lot of ICT coming out of India, but we still see that very few ICT related technologies have found their way in terms of IP filings in India. So that's a great area for companies to actually protect themselves if their products are going to find a place in the consumer markets in India in the ICT domain. That's a gap that is blatantly visible on this slide as well. The top EU companies that are filing in India, and this particular slide talks about green technologies only. You can see some of the big names there, but you can also see some companies which have very small portfolios, like for example, Woburn Properties, very small portfolio in the wind turbine space, but still being one of the major filers here. And Emitech was acquired by Continental Automotive recently in Germany, and that's also a small portfolio, but acquired by a large company. So we see that companies that are taking initiative in filing, smaller companies that are taking initiative and protecting themselves in other geographies are catching the eye of larger players and find a business opportunity to collaborate, be acquired or work together with them to grow. Now, overall, when we see, like I think I mentioned initially, India itself, when we talk about green technologies, India itself is contributing to about 11% of the IP that is being filed, which we call, green. And whereas Europe is filing almost 28%, and the rest of the world is contributing to about 61%. And overall, this number might look quite impressive for Europe because it stands at 28%. But given the fact that the overall filings in India are pretty low, this number may change over time very quickly if other geographies and companies from other geographies start filing in India more and more. So in summary, for my presentation, which is based on the actual data that we uncovered for the last 5 years, we find that European companies are extensively innovating and filing green technology. But this space is growing. This space itself is almost 800,000 patent families globally, which we call as green patents. And European companies are really contributing a lot to that. But the filings that are translating to India are comparatively low. And I think that can increase with more and more smaller, medium sized businesses actually looking at the Indian market, identifying opportunities there and protecting their IP in this space. As we said, large corporations are still the largest filers in India when it comes to green tech. And there is a big opportunity for small and medium-sized businesses which have consumer markets in India, and they can identify potential, product solutions and IPR that can be protected. That would give them an edge in a big market like India. So this presentation in summary highlights that there is a need for companies to find their way to India and protect their IP, because this is still an early, mover advantage for them, and that's an opportunity waiting to be unleashed. I can take the questions towards the end. Ankita, over to you. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take it after the other presentations, or you can write to me at this email ID as well. So
Thank
back to
you.
you, Ankita.
Yeah, thank you, Faiz, for presenting this very crucial piece of information, because in terms of landscape, they always reveal, I mean, this kind of information, which is basically to create business strategy or your IP strategy, I must say. So thank you, Faiz. Now, to answer the question that what to consider from the IP perspective when entering in India, Anupam will share some crucial information on that one. Anupam, to you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ankita. I'm just sharing my presentation. Hello, good afternoon to all of you. And I'm Anupam Trivedi, and as I told you in my beginning, that I'm practicing patent and design area in India, and helping to the clients in protecting their IP, especially in patents and designs in India. So thank you, Hannah, Faiz, and Joel, for setting the context on the green technology, because while we work on patent drafting and patent filing, most of the time we understand from green technology is by its IPC International Patent Classification, and there are some classification is already there which Faiz touched upon in terms of climate basis. But the major question is, so I will touch upon on the IPR perspective, that what are the opportunities in terms of IP protection in India in the space of green technology, or in the space of any new technology which is environment friendly in any aspect, whether it's clean air side or clean water side or in transport side, or you name it, whatever we have discussed in the earlier part of our presentation. So whenever we consider any particular jurisdiction, we always, it is always important to see that how that destination, how that country is doing in terms of IP protection, and not only IP protection, but the enforcement of IP, whether the IP acquired by the enterprises, organizations, companies are secured and enforceable against the violators or not. Is whether that country is having that kind of system or not. What kind of judicial system, legal system, legal framework in that particular country, which give the confidence to the enterprises and organizations to come and do the business in a secured way, in a way where they are protecting their IPs, their technologies, what they are developing for that particular country's need based. And in the previous presentations, I think by now it's very clear that there are a lot of areas actually where India needs support from European side, European companies, which are in various sectors. And so it is important that we need to understand that what kind of legal framework in the India to protect those IP, especially in patents and other forms of IP, and the legal system. So I'll take you through with my slides and tell you that in India, the IP protection is recognized over 150 years old now. The first legislation came into effect is in 1847 by way of copyright legislation. 1856 there was first patent file in India, and since then the law is evolving, and most of in 1860 trademark rights introduced. 1911 to 1970 the various enactments came in the various forms of the IP. Post 1970 there are various amendments brought into the act in terms of bringing the compliance with the WTO, so that India become join the world and join the larger perspective of IP rights, what they are offering to the nationals of other countries while they are coming to India. If you see the IP protection system in India and legal framework of in India, you will find that the judiciary play a very, very important role in India. And because it is one of the three important pillars of the structure of the any particular state, and judiciary is basically adjudicating authority, which ensures that the whatever law is framed out, what is law is there, it is rightly interpreted, and the executives who are implementing that law it is put into the right frame of right set and right context. So judiciary is having very independent role in analyzing all those things. Whenever there is a gap or where there is a incorrect implementation of the law by executives may be officials from the patent office, design office, IP offices, or from the ministries who were executing the power conferred under law. So judiciary play a very important role by way of review and by way of adjudicating the actions taken by executives. And if there is any gap between the law, if there is any lack of interpretation on particular statute of the law, judiciary play again very important role by giving more explanation about that interpretation, so that things become clear and that becomes a precedent and that becomes a law for the future. So independency of judiciary in Indian legal framework is very, very important, very role, and which give an confidence and to the organizations and companies and even individuals which are coming and filing patents in India or doing any kind of sort of business in India. Most of the time we found that in a judiciary, wherever any dispute matters comes in terms of IP or IP before them, or quasi-judicial authorities like patent office, officials are very pro-IP protective. Means they are not very anti-IP policies. They are very pro-IP policies. They generally decide the cases based on the merit of the cases, not on the basis of the nationals who are coming and filing patent in India or coming for a resolution of any particular disputes. So in that way, judiciary play a very, very important role in India, and there's I would say much better than any other country neighboring to us in terms of IP enforcement and giving a decision on the basis of the merit of the case. And apart from that, there are other criminal and border control remedies are there to protect the interest of the IP owners in India. I'll take you through what the Indian Patent Office system and what are the recent trend what we have seen in the India in terms of number of filings, in terms of disposal of the applications and examination. So India is having 4 patent offices: Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and Calcutta. These patent offices are actually located geographically in northern part, western part, southern part, and eastern part of India. To just cater, these were designed in the sense that for the Indian incorporations which are situated in the southern part of India to reach out to the southern part of patent office, something like that. Whoever falling in that particular region. But for the foreign filers or foreign applicants, they are free to file patent applications, IP applications in any of the patent office because nowadays all electronic filings are there. But this is just location of the patent office. As in the previous slides or previous presentation, there was one point came out for the India that India is very much criticized in the past because of the long delay in patent grant process, and that is the reason that companies which are looking for India for IP protection, they don't want to see India as a good jurisdiction because they are finding that it takes a long time to get a grant in patent. So with this, when this new government came up, they put a lot of emphasis on this particular aspect, which rest of the world is actually is concerned about it. Even the Indian applicants and Indian companies are concerned about it. And in last couple of years, there are a lot of changes happened, And that clearly now indicating in this particular slide that if you see in 2016, 17, 17, 18, near about 60,000 patent applications are disposed as compared to 28,000 application in the last 2016, 17 as per the annual report. So almost 108% increase in disposal of cases in 2017-18 as compared to 2016-17. In fact, if you see this slide, you will find that the total number of applications in the last 5 years, every year is coming near about 42,000 applications or so. And 2017-18, near about 47,000 applications filed in Indian Patent Office. Though the number is not that much great, considering India is a big country and the contribution, what is expected from India is not that much good. But still, in 2017-18, first time some good trends started showing, because there are a lot of startups, there are a lot of enterprises come in 2017-18, which in the space of very innovative technologies, and they filed a lot of patents. So slightly trends showing positive side in 2017-18. If you see the domain-wise, in which area of technology most of the patent applications are filing in India it is in the engineering sector, electronics, electrical, mechanical engineering, and definitely because of that reason the grant rate is also in those two sections are higher, followed by chemistry and pharma, and followed by the biotechnology area. This is the trend of number of inventions what is coming to India in various domains. Another interesting slide here is that out of 47,000 applications, what is generally filing in India, 45,000 applications coming to India, US applicants are sharing highest part of that, followed by Japan, which is 16% of filing in India, and then followed by Germany, China, Netherlands, Korea, UK, and so on. But if I combine the European states here, I am seeing the trend that after US, the European unions are or states are basically the number 2 if they count it put together in this particular graph. So there are a lot of applications are coming from European states, but that are fragmented actually right now here. But when we combine, it's holds second position, I think. These are the top foreign applicants coming to India for filing their patent application, combined together all area of technology, and green technology is part of that technology. So Qualcomm, Philips, as Faze mentioned, Philips is also filing a lot of invention in the green tech sector. Philips Lighting, Google, Mitsubishi Electric, General Electric, they are filing most of the application in wind energy area, wind turbines side, Daimler AG, ABB, Huawei, and Honda Motor Company. These are the top foreign resident applicant filing every year in India, and you can see the numbers, which is quite good. So when we are considering India as a place for doing business and as a place for IP protection, what an incorporation has to keep in mind. I'm touch upon the brief facts, brief pointers for you, which you have to keep in mind. India recognized the priority date, the first to file system. So if that is a very, very first thing, that if you have a first blocking the priority, you are having priority over the other filers which are filing in the same space later. In terms of patentable subject matter, yes, in India, process patents and product patents are granted. That's not a doubt. But before 2005, product patent regime was not there. But 2005 onwards, product patents are there, even in the pharmaceutical space and all other spaces. Indian Patent Act under Section 3 and under Section 4 recognize some artificial exclusions on certain kind of inventions in terms of their patentability. So if your inventions are falling within these particular section, then there is a difficulty to get the patent in India. So it is important that whenever any invention is to be considered for India, it has to be tested under this particular artificial exclusivity test and seek opinion on the aspect that whether there is a scope available or not for patentability aspect in India. Like method of Face has touched upon one very important sector, ICT, which is not that much patent in India, and the reason being only here that computer software inventions are not patentable in India. So if we may read that particular section, software inventions are not patentable, but it's a combination of hardware and software and the computer related inventions. If you see, there are a lot of patentability possibilities are there, and India follows very much on the similar lines as European Patent Office follow the inventions on the ICT sector, inventions on CRI sector, or artificial intelligence even. If you see the Indian prosecution side, once the patent application is filed, you will receive a first examination report. And as you know that there's a lot of issues related to the backlog. Nowadays, Patent Office is not issuing the second examination report, very rare in very few cases, and they are directly going for hearing notice if there is any outstanding objections and issues are pending with the patentee. So that they can reduce the time to grant of patent application and dispose the application as quickly as possible. So that's the big change actually come into the process by which Patent Office is swiftly disposing the matters, either granting or rejecting or questioning to them and clearing it out. In terms of examination fees, yes, in Indian patent system, you have to pay the request for examination after filing your application. Unless you file a request for examination, your application will not come into the queue of examination. It will remain as a dormant application. And if it completes 48 months from the priority date, it will be abandoned on its own if you will not file RFE, request for examination. So very important that if you file a patent application in India, it is at the same time you can file request for examination so that your application can come into the queue of examination as quickly as possible, and your examination can be started of your application and you can get a grant early. There is no request for continuity examination in India system, and no hearing fees is paid. In terms of any amendments, in this claims and amendments in the specification under Indian patent law under section 59, you can do that voluntary amendments in terms of clarifying or in terms of explanation purpose. That is possible. The timelines for replying the examination report is reduced, which was earlier 12 months time. Now it is reduced to 6 months. So again, there is a lot of emphasis on that, how we can reduce and shorten the period within which we can grant the patent application. The time for replying the examination report is now 6 months, where you can get maximum 3-month extension. And directly go for hearing. You can get adjourn hearings maximum 2 times, and each time not more than 30 days. So these are the important things which are you need to keep in mind while you are filing a patent application in India, and these are the major steps actually in that sense. India also have a requirement of submitting details of foreign filing applications corresponding to their Indian application under section 8, under section 8.1 and 8.2. When there are specific objection and a specific requirement raised by the examiner about the copy of office actions and the granted claim in other jurisdictions, so that they can have a review of that. And I would say that European granted claims having very much persuasive value in India while you are prosecuting Indian claims. So if European granted claims are with you, you can really pursue them in India on the same lines in India, especially in mechanical engineering invention or ICT related inventions and CRI related inventions. Now I will touch upon a few important pointers which an enterprises or incorporation which are working with India or which are planning to coming to India, and they are in the process of filing patent application or in India and the country where they are working and they are situated. Especially if we see European-Indian collaboration. If any invention, so first point is in that is foreign filing permission. Under Indian law, it is important that, you know, if any Indian resident is a part of any particular project of invention, then he need to take permission from the Indian Patent Office before filing first application outside India. Or if he caused to make others in terms of his companies or his assignees, then he has to apply for a foreign filing permission first from India, and then only he can file first application outside India. Here, in this particular provision of Indian law, it is important who has made the invention rather than where the invention is made. So it is no matter that if Indian resident is inside in the India or Indian resident outside the India. If he is an Indian resident, he has to take the permission from Indian Patent Office before filing first application outside India. However, if you want to file application in India first, then there is no problem of taking the permission. But after 6 weeks time from first filing in India, he can go to the filing outside India. So let's suppose an example that if in European-Indian collaboration work is there and few inventors are from India, few inventors are Indian resident and few are from European side, then as per Indian law, first application has to be filed in India or first permission has to be obtained from the India. This is very important to get this permission, and because the consequence is very tough. Consequence is that if you will not take a foreign filing permission and an Indian resident is involved in that particular project, then your application will be abandoned while you will come to India with that invention. Or you will have a consequence of sentencement because of non-compliance of this particular law of India, Patent Act. And however, the whole philosophy of keeping this kind of provision is to keep a check that what kind of invention are filing outside India, whether they belongs to defense related or not, whether they are atomic energy related or not. So to keep a check on that kind of invention, this particular provision is having, you know, very much relevance in terms of projects, in terms of collaboration work, and before filing any application in India and joint. Another important aspect of Indian Patent Act is once the application is granted in India, the patentee or its licensee and both have to file every year to the patent office a statement of working. A statement of working is just a statement, a declaration that whether your granted patent is commercially exploited in India or not, either by manufacturing the product in India or either by importing the manufactured goods outside India and coming to and selling in India. So every year you have to file one form, which we call Form 27, and declare it that you are working with the invention or you are not working with the invention. Whatever may be the case, you have to follow that. You have to fill it. You cannot ignore it, because if you are not filing Form 27 and you are not complying the law, there are fines in the law, and if you are declaring wrong information under the form, there is a punishment in the law. So this is again very peculiar requirement. These all requirements are not very tough in terms of its implementation, but it is very important to be aware about it so that you can plan and progress accordingly and keep a proper timelines in your process flow.
And Upam, sorry for disrupting you, but we need to have time for question and answers as well.
Okay.
So how many slides more do you have, or you can just?
I think 2-3 slides more, and then I can finish it. So one last compulsory license provisions are there in India. If you are not working patent in India, any interested party can go to the patent office and ask for the compulsory license. If your inventions belong to the biodiversity area, then it is again very important that you are utilizing biological resources from India. You need to take permission from NBA before filing any IPR or during the pendency of IPR. Again, for India perspective, there is no specific law related to trade secrets, and they are governed under the normal contract law and principle of equity. And as I told, that IP enforcement is very important. So recent time, the Commercial Code Act has been passed, which is prescribing the timeline within which any dispute matters, even IP dispute matter, will be sorted out at the bench level of the state high courts or district courts. I think startups are having not only can also get the benefit of the reduced official fees, reduced assistance from the patent filing, and expedite examination also. CRI part I already touched upon. Then expedite examination. In India, patent applications once filed, you can get it expedite based on certain grounds. So if you are a startup, Indian startup or foreign startup, you can get a expedite examination so that you can get a grant within 1.5 years, 2 years time. We have seen the cases where within 2 years time, the patent is granting in India now under this particular schemes. Design law is very mature in India. It is very quick and fast. Within 6 to 8 months time, you can get the design protection. The term of design protection is 10 plus 5 years, and it recognizes 6 months priority from the foreign design applications. This is a general timeline for Indian patent application. Average time to get a grant in India is 3 to 4 years, but with the exceptions in terms of some expedite route, you can get it grant in India within 2 years time. We can attend any question if there is any there in this slide. In India, there are good check and balances once during the pendency of the patent application and even after the grant of the patent. During the pendency of patent application, if somebody want to oppose it, they can go for pre-grant opposition proceedings, which is available between the window of first publication to till grant. And in the post-grant opposition, it is available after grant to 12 months, and for the revocation even after grant to till the term of 20 years. So there are good check and balances in the Indian patent law, even if the patent is granting or wrongly granting actually. These are the progressive initiatives what patent office have taken. Patent office have so all patent filing, prosecution is nowadays happening in electronic module. Even hearings are offering by VC, video conferencing, so it reduces the time and efforts. And collectively, all this put together and improve the speedy disposal of the cases, and that's why we are saying that patent office initiatives are very, very encouraging in terms of IP protection and speed of the IP protection what they are offering now. This is just slide for NBA approval and NBA kind of information which you can refer at the later stage. For the green tech technology, if you see this in last 5 years, in these 4 buckets: alternative energy, energy conservation means agriculture, forestry, and harness energy and man-made waste. In 2020, definitely there's a reduced number of applications are showing. But till 2018, 2019, you are seeing that considerably good number of applications are coming in all those 4 buckets of the green technology. I've selected the IPC classification, what is given for the or defined by the WIPO. So I'll just touch upon this last slide. So in the most of the applications, what is coming in India is in the alternative source of energy area, and which includes wind energy, solar energy, hydro energy, and ocean thermal energy, fuel cells, geothermal energy, and biofuels. Putting together in last 5 years, there are 4,000 plus applications are showing in Indian domain. And in the wind energy, you are saying that these are the top filers in last Woben, Vestas, GE, same in solar energy. And these are the really areas where India need more support and more collaboration with the European part and European companies. And there's a lot of scope to go and protect invention in these areas. So thank you so much. I think I will take if any questions on any of my slide and any kind of further queries on this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anupam, for providing such a exhaustive presentation about Indian patent ecosystem in entirety. So my first question would be to you only, right?
Okay.
So like WIPO is having this, and even EPO is having Y classification for green technology and clean technologies, right? And USP2 has also opened their, fast processing services for clean technology related areas. Do you think that Indian Patent Office is also having similar kind of initiatives might be in future? Or right now, is there
Yeah,
something?
it's a very good question. I think in terms of provision under law, is there any provision under which you can get faster examination and faster grant of patent application which are basically belongs to green technology area? So far, there is no provision as such under that category in India, but the amendments or next discussions and other things will happen. This will be a good point of reference that we should have this kind of system. We should have some provisions related to that kind of technology so that it can be faster prosecuted in India. But so far, I think I'm not aware about any of this kind of provision in India.
Okay. And do you think that now India is an ISA, right? So it will give boost to patent filing status by European side as well as Indian side in India?
Yes. Under Indian provision, under Indian law, if you want to expedite your Indian application, and if you have selected India as a ISA or IPEA, then you can ask for expedite examination under Indian law. So if any European Indian collaboration are working together, and there are Indian companies and Indian subsidiary companies are part of that project, collaborative project, then definitely they can consider India as ISA, and that can go for the faster route and get the grant very quickly in India. So being India and ISA and or IPA, it will really help to the potential businesses and sectors to improve their filing in India, of course.
Thank you, Anupam. So my next question to Faiz basically, do we have any kind of success story or case study which can be unveiled through your landscape study in green technology area?
Yeah, so I think every company that I mentioned on the list is a case study in itself. I mean, some have been really long-standing investors, you can say, in the Indian technology space. Companies like Philips, etc., have really been filing patents in India since long, and they continue to see it as an opportunity. Although some of those companies, including Philips, have a declining strength, but then there are other case studies where, like BASF or Bayer, they have higher, they have increased their share of patent filing. But not only that, it is from a larger company perspective, but you also see smaller players who are actually invested in the Indian market through their IPR protection. And they have seen, like I talked about Emitech, which got acquired by Continental. So those kind of, case studies are there who have taken efforts in terms of investing in other or protecting their IP rights in other countries, particularly in India as well, and have, achieved, you can say, a next level business transition for themselves through that approach.
And if I might add to this, because EBTC, we work with the European Patent Office a lot, and of course the European Patent Office is really tries to encourage SMEs to file applications. And I think the reason, if we leave out the big players out of the picture, let's say we know that one of the biggest European filers in India is actually Philips. If we leave out the big players out of the picture, even the European SMEs actually do not file generally that many applications. I mean, if you look at the numbers, I think they just say around 10% of European SMEs are actually filing IPR. So I think this is also, this collaboration exercise is to also kind of educate in European companies in a way to file IPR in Europe. So the IPR which is coming to India is generally from the big players, so to say. So once that mindset gets also kind of embedded in Europe. Of course, there would be few companies, few SMEs, and few small companies which are very IP driven, which are very focused on this area. But I would still say that it's still not a common practice. If you leave out maybe Germany and Sweden, you go to the other countries, the equation might be very different. So I think by trying to support the IPR generation and filing for the technology in India will also enable them to understand that they have to file in their home countries or in Europe as a market. So I think this is at least the way how I understand and the interactions I had with the Indian stakeholders, but also with the European stakeholders, or reading different reports and interacting with different people. And of course, Faye, you guys are doing the you see the data left, right, and center. So I'm sure maybe you will second that on the European side, the SMEs, the smaller size companies, they still have to put a little bit of work on when it comes to the generation of the IPR, generation of patents. Yeah.
True. I agree to that.
Yeah.
Johanna, actually you answered to my next question. What can be the opportunities you think?
Oh, please.
So now I would like to ask Joel one question. Joel, how can you summarize in Europe what are the specific areas, like Hannah mentioned earlier, that there are challenges which can be turned into opportunities, right? So how you're going to summarize in Europe both the streams?
Yeah, I think it's very important. Of course, we've already mentioned all the sectors, so I will not repeat the sectors, but having worked in this space for the last 20 years, what I would want to say is, I've worked with the EU India corridor for a very long time, but I've also had a little stint with North America. And I think even from your slides, the Americans are focusing on India and filing patents in India much more than than the Europeans as an entire block, right? You talked about Sweden and Germany, but that's not all of the EU. We have 27 member states in the EU. We, of course, should be looking at India in a big way, but I think there's something that's dissuading them to file patents in India and even move to India. I think that's very slow compared to the other countries looking at India, in spite of them knowing very well of the opportunities in India. I mean, we've had so many of these presentations talking about the opportunities in India. They know of the support being offered by the EU as well. So I think it's just a matter of, success stories. I think peer-to-peer understanding of, hey, I'm a CEO of Philips or a CEO of Bosch, and this is what we did to file our patents in India. And I think that is something which we are lacking, because everyone knows, India is an emerging economy. We are doing extremely well in terms of all indexes and indices, or whatever, all of these charts and tables. But and even after telling you after this presentation, I'm sure that if there are any companies that want to file in India, they would be a little hesitant. Now, India, in terms of ease of doing business, is definitely doing well. We've seen the trend. We've seen how it has been improving. I mean, I'm Indian, but based in Europe, and I can see that, we get a lot of questions on India as to how difficult it is and how easy it is. It's going both ways. So I think it is just about getting out there and taking that first step, working with partners like ENS and working with Faiz and his team at Sagacious, working with partners like EBTC to really handhold these EU businesses in understanding India, in entering India, and in filing their patents in India. We have the EU India IPR SME Forum, which is really supporting EU businesses in terms of their IP filings and IP understanding on India. So I guess this is where I would say, there has to be a traction. There has to be a faster move towards India from Europe, because again, the sectors we've already shared, there is opportunity in the green tech space. in all of the sectors. There's an EU to EU-India understanding in terms of government. So there's a G2G, there's a B2B. Now we just need to see more traction. Thank you.
Perfect, Joel. Thank you so much. And we are now out of time, so this is end of.
I guess there's one question in the chat box, in the Q&A box, Ankita, from an anonymous entity.
Yeah, so I think you've already answered about that. So
I'll just quickly summarize that question. Yeah, I think it's related to the FFL from my presentation. So my answer to this is that if Philips are inventing in India and there are Indian residents are involved into that, Philips are supposed to take that foreign filing permission from India before filing first application in their location. Or if they are seeing India as again a market where they need to file it, they are first filing. They are filing parallelly in India as well. So I think they are following the law of India based on the provisions of the Indian law. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so now I think we're done with all question and answers. And if our audience are having any more questions, so they can shoot an email to any of our panelists or to us. So thank you everyone, and thank you for our wonderful panelists and for this wonderful session. And I'm sure that our listeners are having very brilliant takeaways out of this session while creating their business strategy or their IP strategy or the future way forward. So thank you everyone. Have a great day ahead. Thanks.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.